So this is a project collaboration between different agencies, people from the territorial government, federal government, of course, with the parks, and then we have the First Nations government. We're all here for the same reason, to see what we can do to help the environment when in the past we spent all our time putting fires out. Many times we've interfered with what nature has been wanting to do for generations.
Just below me is a 37-hectare unit that Parks Canada, in collaboration with Kluane First Nation and Aishihik First Nation and Yukon Wildland Fire Management, is looking to ignite in the next couple days here. Really came out of conversations we had with Kluane First Nation and Aishihik First Nation about the importance of fire on the landscape and the history that fire has played on the landscape here before the establishment of the game sanctuary and ultimately the establishment of the national park. Through this project that we have been associated with, this Dakai Ukanatha J project, or All of You Watch Over Our Country with Your Heart, we've been able to have a forest health study by the Canadian Forest Service.
The work that we did, essentially, we used historical black and white photography to map areas that looked like they had burned. The photos were from sort of like the 40s approximately, and we also used much older images from the early 1900s that were survey photos that you could also see burned forests in. Put that information together, we were able to show that there actually had been quite a bit of fire in the park in the past, pretty substantial areas burned, and we were able to assign dates to that. And when we look at those dates, what we see is this really big fall off in fire activity, sort of around when the park was created, but actually mostly prior to that, associated with the game sanctuary. That is most likely because a lot of these fires would have been human caused. There's not a lot of lightning ignitions in this area. And so when people were unable to have that connection that they had to this area previously with the creation of the park and with the advent of fire suppression, we stopped seeing those ignitions. And so presumably in response to that, the ecosystem has changed a bit and fire has been absent from there. So
the way they've done it was to have suppression, which we all know, I mean, as First Nations people, we all knew was not the proper way of doing it. So we have a long history of managing our forests. We've been here for 10,000 years. So we learned there's a lot of stories about the different ways that we would start our own forest fires to not have suppression, so that we would have younger trees that are better for moose and better for caribou. My brother Gary tells a story, because our family is from Champagne, of when one of our uncles would get a moose way up in the hills, he would set a tree on fire and we would see it in Champagne, and then we would know that there had been a moose that had been harvested and where it was.
We traded with the Tlingit along the coast, and the people at the time, the Tlingit would come up and set a tree on fire kilometers away from the village to let them know that they were coming. In Shawashay and Dalton Post, they call, they would have to cross the river. So it was important for them to know that these Tlingit traders were coming.
There is a story of some of the first non-First Nations people here. They called us very irresponsible when they saw us doing that. We were coming up to a village, and the night before we set a tree on fire and the whole forest caught on fire, and we just walked on like it didn't mean anything, and they found it very irresponsible. But we knew that all of these things were healthy for the forest.
We looked after the forest, we burned it. You can see the old burn marks on the behind me here on the Clutcher Hill. It's all poplar now, and so there's no fire danger on this side. When we burned, it was to build either wildlife habitat, or we burned the brush to have late fall burn. We'd burn all the limbs off the spruce trees. That way you get sunlight in, you're making habitat for your wildlife. But we were stopped by the forestry department about our forest fire burning, and they said, they told us that you guys are not allowed to burn, it's against the law. And Jimmy Kane said, why you don't want us to burn? And they said it's an economic value to our people. The unhealthy forest now, what's taking place is the forest has grown old. Tsuwaku, they call that, beetle kills. We had a name for it.
What happens when the spruce beetle bores into the tree's defense is to try and force it out with sap. And sap burns much hotter than the wood does. And so now with all of these dead spruce bark beetle-killed trees, I could see a prescribed burn getting out of control more easily than a regular cared for forest. So I'm of two minds of it. I think it needs to be done, but I think it needs to be done in a way where we're informed and we feel safe for our villages that are in that area, like Kluane, which is a habitat for champion Aishihik people.
Success for this project doesn't necessarily mean a full burn. There's been a fantastic amount of work that's been done on this project. Like I mentioned before, some of the Canadian forest study work that's been done, our partnerships and the relationships that we've grown throughout this 5-year project have been invaluable, and you can't really put a metric on that, building these relationships and building future capacity for our fire management program. These things are invaluable, and all the learning that we've done, it goes a long way. And I think it really builds a base for future fire programs and getting the information out there for community members, members of the Yukon, and members of all of Canada, so that we can learn to manage our forests better and in a right way.
I'm appreciating how serious that this is being taken. And from what I see, and the people that I've seen so far working on this, and the respect is there, that part I really appreciate, is that there is a respect for the concerns of the people who are here in the First Nations. So again, that's important to have that message out there, is that we're all in this together.
But these are things, like when you're looking after your forest, you're looking after your country.